Sup guys, Zanderson 977 here today to do One Piece chapter 750 review. Okay, now the most obvious amazing part of this chapter is the very end. When what do we have? Sabo versus Fujitora. Sabo versus Fujitora, and oh yes, I do believe that this fight will in fact go down. This fight will happen, and it's a very good fight in my opinion because it will showcase what Sabo's abilities actually are, and we see Sabo actually begin to fight more seriously than we've seen him fought in tournament. In the tournament, for the whole duration of those fights, even though he was using hand-to-hand combat, we didn't see him get serious enough where he said, okay, let me now use the pipe to fight, right? For that whole duration of those fights, he didn't use his pipe. You know, when fighting against Burgess and that other guy, yeah, when he was fighting against Burgess and the other guys in the tournament, he didn't use his pipe at all, which implies that he was holding back. But in this week's chapter, we see towards the end, you know, this whole bag of Marines lying on the ground. We see all of them, you know, already beaten, and we see him holding his pipe, where he's now infusing his fire attacks with his pipe, which is very impressive because normally what's revealed in One Piece thus far is that when someone just attains a devil fruit power, right, even though devil fruit powers are very advantageous to a fighter, it increases their ability a lot, whether it be Paramecia, Zoan and other types. It takes some time for someone to really hone their skills with a devil fruit. So although in this fight we will get to see Sabo use his devil fruit abilities, his skills will not be honed to perfection just yet. That will take time and experience with that devil fruit. I mean, look at you, Luffy. Luffy has had that Gomu Gomu no Mu fruit from when he was a child basically, and now he's honed it to a very high level of control and strength with his devil fruit power. It's taken him years though. Maybe he's at the level of perfection for his fruit, who knows, but it's taken him a very long time. So even though Sabo has his fire devil fruit ability, it will still take him some time before he's able to hone those fire abilities and skills to a very high level. So on that note, the progression in this chapter is that they finally found the key for Law's handcuffs. So Rebecca says that she's going to take the key and find a way to give it to Lucy. Well, she says Lucy, but she actually means Luffy. She's going to take the key and find a way to give it to Luffy eventually. So that's what's revealed. Now, assuming that she does in fact get to Luffy and hand him the key, Law will finally be able to move about, and he will play an important part of the fight against Doflamingo, because in my opinion they need Law, whether it be taking on one of the other top executives members on Don Quixote's side, or it means him teaming up with Luffy himself to take out Law. But in my opinion, I think it actually means, in my opinion, I think this is how the fight will Doflamingo will go down. Luffy won't necessarily have anyone to help him to fight against Doflamingo. For all the fights, all the major boss fights that we've seen Luffy do thus far, it's always been one-on-one fights. Always been one-on-one. So even though Don Quixote is a powerful dude, yes, he's very powerful, and we've seen him punk Luffy before, it may get you thinking that to take out Don Quixote he will need Law or some other help. But going with the trend of how Luffy general does his boss fights, it's normally a one-on-one fight. And for all the colored pages that we've seen hinting towards, you know, Luffy fighting Doflamingo, it's always just been Luffy, you know, with Doflamingo in there. It's never been anybody else. So in my opinion, it will be that one-on-one fight. And finally, I hope we will get to see Luffy go all out or get very serious in this fight. We've never up to this point seen him go all out or really witness what sheer destructive power he has when he does go all out. But at this point, it's probably assumed that Luffy is not necessarily at Admiral level yet. He's somewhere below Admiral level, not just there as of yet. But in this chapter, what do we see? We see Sabo facing off against Fujitora. So what does that hint at? This pretty much hints at Sabo being at least Admiral level. I mean, no one in their right mind would stand up to an admiral without the strength or confidence in themselves that they can put up a decent fight. And you don't put up a decent fight against an admiral if you are not an admiral yourself. So this is actually an interesting turn of events, and I'm really looking forward to what will happen between Sabo and Fujitora. So keep in mind, Sabo won't necessarily have the level of perfection and fine-tuning that Logias generally have. Logias like Aokiji and Akainu and Kizaru, those guys who can literally warp themselves around attacks and move certain body parts out of the way, and certain fine-tuned aesthetic skills. You won't necessarily have that because those fine-tuned skills come with experience and years of having that devil fruit. So overall, I think it was a good chapter of One Piece. I liked it pretty much. What I liked best was the fact that Sabo is now going to face off against Fujitora, and currently Luffy is on the first level, and it's about 4 levels for them to get to the Royal Palace where the Flamingo will be waiting for them. So Luffy is on the first level. He's using Gatling gun to charge through, and he's on his way to Doflamingo. Now, another thing that I want to point out is about Pika and his abilities. In the past previous chapters of One Piece, when Pika was using his hand to attack the people in the Colosseum, and we see Chinjao and King Riku use their attacks to injure that arm, to injure his arm and break it up, right? What do we see happen? We see him just reform his arm, and then it's like he's back and he's good to go. He's like good as new. But when Luffy used that Grizzly Magnum on his head to destroy his head, what happened? We see him immediately come out of that that stone obelisk state, right? The state where he literally merges his body with the ground and to create the stone giant to attack things. Once his head got destroyed by Luffy, we see him come out at that state, and now he's facing off against Zoro. So this is a hint that when he does go into that state, his weak area or his weakness in that state is attacks to his head. If his head gets destroyed, he won't be able to go back into it for probably some time again, because if he was able to go back into it, he wouldn't necessarily he wouldn't in fact allow Luffy to just run past him and begin to run along on the first level. That wouldn't have happened at all if he could just grow back his head and everything would be okay. So this points to an obvious drawback of using that power on him, and it seems that it does drain a lot of stamina from Pika as well. But as I said, that's my 2 cents, that's my thoughts, that's my review. So overall, it was a good chapter of One Piece. Rate, comment, subscribe. Sayonara.